right. Well, TW does this series of showing images and photos, and then you guys react to them. We ask our guests to react to them. So T-Dubs, take it away.
All right. So the first one, I'll expand my screen a little bit. Um, this is an empty picture of JPJ. Was just curious, when did you guys learn? How did you guys learn of, the end of the season, the shutdown? Obviously, is at the ACC tournament, but where were you guys? What were you thinking?
Well, so I'll go, I guess. I was on spring break. I was down in Florida. Um, Definitely kind of saw it coming once everything started to kind of close. It was devastating because we really just kind of started to find our groove, hit our stride. I think it was what 8-game win streak to end the year. At the end of the day, I really just felt bad for these kids. Like I know that the NCAA tournament is something that you can use as your NBA application basically, where those 4, 5, 6 games can really make or break how you're drafted. Um, my heart goes out to teams like Dayton, where this is like the best year they've had in a long time, and they had something really special that they could have gone deep into the tournament, and they never got that chance. But I mean, it's heartbreaking because these kids, that's all they do year round. They work and work and work to play in that tournament, and when it's just kind of ripped away and there's nothing you can do about it, it's gotta be heartbreaking and devastating. And I can't imagine putting your entire life into something like that and then having it just kind of vanish like that. So it's not been fun, and I'm hoping they do something nice for those kids eventually. But it's definitely been tough to kind of watch people's stories and hear what they have to say, and it sucks. So
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I mean, I just remember hearing about the cancellation of the ACC tournament, and then immediately my mind jumped to the NCAA tournament. I mean, like, what is that? I can live without an ACC tournament if there's an NCAA tournament. I mean, that's not a deal breaker for me, but I sort of knew that was a sign of things to come. So I think that was, I think the NBA canceled first, but then once I saw the ACC tournament cancel, I sort of knew that this season was at its end.
Right.
It was hard to swallow. But.
And then we're going to go in a little bit of a random order, but this is a photo of the team kneeling for injustice, coming from obviously two white dudes, Barstool Sports. What when you see something like this, what sort of emotion does that bring out in you?
I think, and I think this is especially true of the Tony Bennett era, is that this team and this program have been something that the Charlottesville community has like really attached themselves to. And there's not a single Charlottesvillian that doesn't enjoy UVA basketball. I'm not saying everyone's a huge fan, but I think everyone does take a little bit of pride in this team.
And then we'll lighten the mood a little bit. It's a photo of Joe Exotic with the tiger. This is more of a. What are you guys watching? Have you seen Tiger King? What is your guilty pleasure? What are you guys watching right now?
Yeah,
T-Dubs, they're 21 years old. Guilty pleasure was like everything that they watch.
Pretty much everything. Basically, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm watching plenty of Netflix. I'm actually watching plenty of UVA basketball, like condensed game highlights, just to keep myself, remind what I would be doing if all things were normal. But yeah, certainly watch Tiger King. It's funny how that show is going to be sort of like forever inseparable from quarantine, I think.
Right.
I think that it's funny how they just sort of hit it at the exact right time when everyone was sort of, hunkering down in their homes and looking for entertainment. That's when this was released, and it was just such a weird, crazy story. But I think what made it what it is that everyone was watching it at the same time, so everyone can sort of react together, which is just such a weird fad, but crazy show. So
yeah, it's this and The Last Dance are the two quarantine.
Yeah, quarantine specials.
Okay, I was just gonna ask you what else are you guys watching? Like, give me 3 shows, Matt, that you're watching on Netflix. You said you're watching a lot.
Yeah, I watched Waco about the
Was that about David Koresh?
David Koresh. Yeah.
How's that?
It's good. It's really good.
Alright.
I'm about halfway through.
Is it a doc?
It's a drama. It's not a documentary. It's like a reenactment of what happened. Yeah. Tiger King, and then Orthodox. You heard about Orthodox?
Yeah.
So those three are my three recommendations. Yeah.
Jake, give me your three.
Yeah.
I'm always curious to know what young people are doing.
Tiger King, obviously. I was definitely one of the last people to watch the show.
That's a good thing, probably.
Hop on the bandwagon with TV shows. But, I mean, I figured once after everybody had seen it, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to be the one left out of the Tiger King conversation. I just watched All American. They just put it on Netflix. It's 2 seasons. They're coming out with season 3. Very good. I liked it a lot. It was this, like, kind of drama around the former NFL player Spencer Paystinger's life. Big fan of that show. And then I'm just about to start Ozark. I've heard that's very good.
So good.
That's what I'm going to do. I heard season 3 was bananas, so I'm excited for that. And then I guess The Last Dance. I've been kind of staying up Sundays to do that, which has been great. But
amazing.
Those have been fun.
All right, one last Tiger King question. Carol Baskins, did she do it?
Absolutely, she did it.
Oh yeah. At this point, saying she didn't do it is like iconoclast. Like you can't say she didn't do it.
It's so awesome that we all could talk about that. And then back a little bit, flip the switch back to sports.
Yes. This has been my phone background. I kid you not.
And this is a picture of TV screaming into the net.
Here, let me. This is my phone background. I'm not even
That's
kidding.
awesome. What do you remember about this game, this day, this moment?
This was the Purdue game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, just like that image is such a sort of like a paradox in my mind. Like I've never seen. He looks so scary and angry and fired up, and like everything else I know about Tony Bennett is the exact opposite. So I think that game especially, and then Tony's reaction on the ladder just got me so amped up. Like even thinking about it now, I sort of get like a fire in my chest just thinking about, like, you could see what that meant to him.
All right.
And the fashion in which it happened was just so surreal. But yeah, just seeing Tony Bennett get that amped up about a game, I think at least sent a signal to me that, like, you know what this game meant to him. And then again, I think the fan base sort of reacted to this moment similarly. I think everyone was just absolutely amped up at this game and at this moment, and seeing Tony react like that was priceless.
Yeah, I watched, obviously we're all watching the game, and I'm kind of sitting there with my like 4 or 5 friends at the time, because it's the Elite Eight. It's not, the biggest of deals yet. And Ty's at the free throw line, and there's 5.5 seconds left, whatever. And we're all looking at each other like, all right, like, that was fun. It was a good year, I guess. Like, we all literally thought we just lost the game. Nobody thought we were going to win. And we're just kind of like packing it up. Like, all right, hey, better luck next year, I guess. And we're watching as, Kia gets the ball and, throws it to Mawardi, and Mawardi shoots. And the ball is in the air. And I've never heard a quieter apartment in my entire – like, I've never been to a place where, like, you couldn't even hear the like, everything was just white noise. You kind of watch the ball, and you still think, like, oh, like, that's not going to go in. Like, there's no way. And then the ball keeps going down, and it goes in. And then, I thought we won, because I can't count very well. And then the guy said for the win, and I was like, oh, we won, and then we didn't win.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like, that stuff you see happens, but it never happens to you. Like, those kind of buzzer beater moments are not teams that you usually root for.
Right.
And when it happens to you, even with the Auburn game, like the 3-point foul thing, when those things kind of happen to your team, you get a greater appreciation of them happening to every team. Like, if you're a Hornets fan and you watch the Jeremy Lamb half-court heave against the Raptors last season, like, you're like, oh, that was pretty cool. But having lived through these kind of buzzer beater moments, you can kind of imagine how that feels as a fan.
Right.
And it still doesn't kind of feel real that we won 3 games in that kind of fashion in a row in the same tournament. But that picture definitely says a lot, where it's like this is happening, and I think we all kind of get to kind of figure that out going into the Auburn game. Like, hey, this is possible, and that picture is something that we will be seeing for a long time.
A long time.
I'm very happy about it.
And then that leads to this next picture. Tony Bennett. Nobody does it better. And my question to you was, because obviously Barstool, with its reputation, which is basically the polar opposite of a man like Tony Bennett, like how do you guys balance that, knowing that the university has it's got a reputation and it's got like a certain I don't know how to say it, but a certain type
Standard.
of class style,
Yeah,
and Barstool is different. So how do you guys balance that? Because there is a little bit of UVA is different than everyone else, and to make those worlds mesh, how do you guys balance that?
I think generally speaking, we try to incorporate that mentality of like, class and like it's sort of like hard to put into words, but what you were talking about into our content. And again, sort of put like a spin on it in the way that, like a we're better than you spin, you know what I mean? Kind of like looking down upon our opponents in that sense. Like, we're the classy institution with a classy coach and good academics and a beautiful, like we kind of like rub it in a lot of ways to our our competitors on Twitter, which is something that, sort of runs contrary to the whole class in the first place.
Yeah, the humility definitely not a pillar that you guys
exactly
built
exactly. On. Yeah, we have to abandon the humility. Otherwise, we'd have to be quiet in our successes. And,
right.
And that's not what Barstool's about, honestly.
Right.
I'd say that how do we mesh those two things? I think we try to keep it pretty classy generally. We don't try not to stoop too low in our trash talk. But when it comes to our successes, we're never afraid to rub them in ever.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of toe that line.
I mean, like anything else, it's a brand, right? So we use what we have. I mean, would it be easier to be Barstool Arkansas and just have people go stuff like that, or Barstool Missouri, where there are people just kind of getting heinously drunk and doing stupid stuff? And yeah, of course, right? But we'll take the brand that we have, which is, more of the elite than a lot of other schools. And, my favorite thing to do is post acceptance rates. Like that kind of stuff is very on brand. Stuff like that. And, to stay kind of true to what UVA is, we are not a giant SEC drinking institution, right? We are not an Ivy League school. We are somewhere in the middle. And that brand is something that you kind of have to lean into, or it's not going to be as fun. There are a lot of people, I think, that wish we were in Alabama or in Auburn.
Yeah.
That we aren't, right? I mean, we've gotten a lot of complaints that we don't post enough crazy drinking videos or stupid drunk videos. And our response is basically, we would if people sent them in. If people doing that funny stuff, we would be happy to post it. But it doesn't happen as much as you think at UVA. So It's definitely the brand that we've kind of dipped our whole body into, and it's different than a lot of other schools, but it's definitely something that we've kind of perfected, I guess, something that you would want to say, or it's very, very niche, and people know like UVA is something different when they look at like the Barstool UVA program.
And just for me personally, when I see it, I think it's always nice to have an unfiltered sort of like megaphone for this, right? Right. It's sports. Yeah. There's some chest pounding that happens, and
Exactly.
You guys are kind of that online voice for that. So we definitely appreciate that. So just a couple more. I was gonna say some of these old school photos, like do you remember, and this is obviously, I think this is before your time, Matt, but what is like your earliest memory of Virginia basketball?
This is certainly before my time. This is before I was born. I think that my earliest memory, like my earliest semblance of a team I can remember in my brain, is probably like the Jason Kane, J.R. Reynolds era.
Nice. Sean Singletary, right?
Yeah. So I guess that was like, 2005, something like that. That's when I, started figuring out I was 6 years old. I started figuring out what sports were, I guess, and why they mattered. But I definitely have like, really, memories that are sort of foundational to my fanhood today. Especially one that's I'll never forget is this Sean Singletary Duke shot. I mean, I think that's like the moment of the 2010, the 2000 to 2010, arguably, is that Sean Singletary Duke floater.
Right. That takes me perfect timing.
Oh, nice.
This is Minneapolis. You got Harold Dean, Roger Mason, Sean Singletary, Malcolm, Josh Hare. When you see older players like that, and OG Whitebone, shout out him. When you see this, like you guys didn't witness it in person, but there's a history there. Like, what is your reaction do you guys go look it up? Do you kind of know offhand, like when you see these guys, or is it?
For me, it's case by case. There are some faces I definitely recognize, and it's funny because like if I talk to my dad and my uncles who also grew up in the area, and I didn't recognize it, they'd be like, "Oh man, how do you not know so and so?" And then I'm like, "Come on, man, I wasn't born. How do you explain it?"
Right, it's unfair.
Right, but I mean, especially in this context, looking at them at the Final Four, I think it just sort of represents, that this program has had really bright days, and that, being able to all of them to be here for them, I'm sure was just sort of a special moment that they could all be proud of to be a part of this program. But again, like I think it's sort of case by case. Some of these faces I admittedly don't recognize, and some of them I do. So, yeah.
And this is the last one.
Man.
Do you see anything peculiar about this photo coming from? I'm looking at you, Jake, in terms of like anything you see here that looks a little off. And this is a picture of all the guys on the floor watching One Shining Moment.
I'm no Photoshop expert, but
sounds like
someone doesn't look like they belong.
And so, how would you rate London's Photoshop skill? Or it's probably this high.
At first glance, honestly, pretty good. Like I would, you scroll through Instagram and you wouldn't like stop and be like, "Wow, that's terrible." But the more you look, the worse it gets. So that.
And for the people watching, this is the photo that London photoshopped himself into and said, "Congrats to the team. It was so great to be there."
That's pretty funny, though. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes college sports better than pro sports.
Right. The camaraderie between all the guys, and obviously he is playing professionally in France, so he couldn't be there. But I think I don't know, on a bus. And
this is you never see these kind of pictures and this kind of effort with pro sports.
No.
Like you've never seen the Patriots alumni like getting together to go to the Super Bowl and stuff like. I mean, this is the brotherhood of college athletics within the schools is crazy, and this is obviously people photoshopping themselves into championship photos of players that aren't even playing anymore. These kind of what college sports, college basketball are like.
Totally. Well, that's all I've got, guys. Appreciate that.
Awesome.